Please say it for me, because I want to try and get as close as possible.
Yeah, the thing is, my first name is Yu,
Uh-huh.
and my last name is Hu. So, but if you only say you, it will make a lot of confusion in the conversation. So that's why people always call me Yu-Hu.
Yoo-hoo. Okay, we will call you Yoo-hoo. That's no
All right.
problem. I will do that.
That's going to be fun. It's going to be as fun as I was hoping.
I already bear this situation for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Welcome everyone to Startup Impact Series. I'm Nick van Breda.
And I'm Fionna Faulk.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I'm
Nice
Nick.
to meet you. Hi.
Hey.
I'm Yu-Hu.
Yes. All right. So we are here with Yu-Hu today of Makeblock as part of our inaugural episode of Startup Impact
Series.
Yeah, the Startup
Startup
Impact
Impact
series.
Great.
So we're super excited to be here. This place is super, super cool and literally is nostalgic even for me from my childhood when I would put together things like
Like
this.
this,
but
like
it's like-
it looks like Max.
but
Huh?
it's
We
like
were
this
playing
on-
with
it's-
this back in
yeah.
the days.
Yeah, it's like this on steroids. So there's a lot that you is going to share with us today. So we're just going to jump right in. All right.
Let's do that.
Yes.
So Fiona and Nick, we are doing the series, and we are interviewing a lot of different startups, startups that have made an impact already. So actually scale-ups or even corporates nowadays, but mostly companies that can share the lessons of a startup, so that not too far away from when they started, can tell us a little bit about the lessons that were learned during that journey.
I think that will be quite fit to our background. So we're still kind of as a startup, but we're being already scaled up. So we started about 6-7 years ago in UX actually. It was incubated by an incubator called HAX. It's a hardware incubator. We were the only Chinese team actually in that incubator back to then. And now we're becoming quite big as part of the HAX family. But now I think we already finished about 3 rounds of investments. We got about 550 employees all over the world. And we got a subsidiary here that's where today, which is the European office. And we also have an office in California. We got an office in Japan as well. And then we got also a few spots outside of China that's basically to support locally. And that's basically how we grow now. So currently we're already becoming one of the market leaders in STEAM education providers, and we hope that we can create huge impact in changing education for the future, basically.
Nice. Very nice.
So you mentioned that you started out of an incubator.
Yeah.
But the team was Chinese.
Yeah.
So how did this all come together? Were
Well,
it a group of Chinese friends? What was the start of it?
To be honest, then we have to interview Jason, our founder. But to my understanding, or what I heard from him, is basically he started first as a project in China, and then he started looking for supports, and then he got the opportunity to actually start up in US with HAX as an incubator.
Yeah.
So he went there for a half year time or something, and then he really made the business model out of it. And our first product actually launched on Kickstarter back to then, and it was
cool.
very successful.
Yeah.
And I do vaguely remember that he said he was the only Chinese team back to then in the whole incubator, and it was also kind of one of the first Chinese team that succeeds as an incubation process there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So the incubator itself was quite new as well in the US?
That actually I don't know, but what I know.
But you did make a success out of it, huh?
We're now actually know quite a lot of people in the network of HAX, because we showed quite some roots, and there are also other startups that are following our path. But what I know, HAX is specialized in hardware incubation, so that fits us quite well.
Yeah, we have a lot of hardware over here. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Reading my
really
mind
true.
over here. So, why don't we take a moment, since we have all these goodies on the table,
Mhm.
I think we'd be remiss not to ask you to show us a little something.
Sure. Yeah.
So people know exactly, like,
If I may.
oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, sorry. Yes, it's
So, just a little bit of background. So, we're currently a whole solution provider. So, we're providing hardware, software, curriculum, and competition for all age group, which means we have from early age, 4 years old, kindergarten education, and for primary school, secondary school, high school, vocational training, university, research, hobbyists, makers, all these kind of markets. Our idea is that hardware is so general and it's so easy to use, and it shouldn't be a problem or barrier for people to start to create,
Yeah.
which actually fits in education quite well.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna walk through the age groups about the products. This one is called I'm Tiny. It's tiny.
I'm tiny.
It's actually not the smallest robot if you look at it in this way.
Yeah.
But for the age group, it's basically early learning.
Yeah.
This robot is our only robot that doesn't involve any apps or software, but it's a unplugged coding way. So one of the biggest things that we try to make it very interactive. Hi.
Hey.
So the idea is that it's very interactive. So in the early age education, the social emotional development is very important. So we try to use this and to interact with kids. But actually, this robot works with physical coding cards and physical maps.
Yeah.
And basically, we have a special sensors underneath wherever you're tapping or the robot's rolling over the maps, and you will have a different interaction there. There's a voice, and they can use the pen. You can read out the
Is it over
textbooks.
there?
It is over there.
Awesome. So it's like the road that we had back in the days where we were playing with little cars
This is
and pushing it forward on this road. Nice. We can make a road. Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah. So
Oh,
physical coding cards. This is an example.
Oh, get out of town.
So if you do this,
Ooh.
it will give
He's
you
getting
feedback.
So if you hold
Yeah.
hold that up so people can see what was just tapped. So
Yeah.
Sad face and angry face.
This.
Yeah.
So if you just this is a number, so it doesn't show. But for example, this is a moving forward cards.
Yeah.
So if you tap it, it will move forwards.
Oh, cool.
And then you can also use this to chain the coding cards together to make impact. For example, if you
Oh,
move forward
sweet.
4 times,
Yeah.
you just tap, tap, tap. We also have a card to execute, so I would just press the button. It will move forward
Whoa.
4 times.
He's trying.
You see it's trying because on the map there's a road a barrier here.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a virtual.
Yeah.
And it actually recognize on the bottom of the robots. So then it will recognize, okay,
wow.
here is the barrier, I can't go outside. It's bouncing back.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
both sensors integrated in to increase the interaction. So basically, we have a special technology there to make sure they can read out the different situations. And we also have a storybook. So basically, you can tap on the book. We have a piano card, so you can play piano with the pen. So everything is around the interaction through the robots, but the robot itself is only just a companion about learning.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and the speaker in it can do all of these things as well, right?
Yeah.
So
And also the big eyes.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah, so
Yeah.
if you tap like 3 different eyes after each other, what will happen?
Oh,
Because
they would just start to do one by one. So
yeah.
the crying,
Oh.
Oh.
and then it's the high, and it's the angry.
Oh, that's crazy. So essentially, what you guys are doing with this, as fun as it is for us,
Mhm.
you're actually, regardless of whether they're building a road or playing the piano, you're actually teaching the fundamentals of coding.
Yeah.
The fundamental logic.
Let's say logic or computational thinking, and also activities. But the magic is actually on the map as a lesson plan And it can be geology, it can be everything in your daily life, all kinds of knowledge binded in there.
Yeah.
So it's not only about the coding, but you can always use coding to make it more interactive as well.
Yeah.
And one thing is we built all the coding cards. It looks exactly like Scratch. Scratch
Do you have an
programming.
NFC in here or something? Because
No.
I don't see
It's
anything else. It's
Yeah.
just a color and
No, it's a special print.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Is it like a QR code fitted in here?
I actually don't know what is the code, but definitely it's a code.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
wow,
That's pretty amazing.
oh,
It's a resting happy mode.
nice.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So
Okay,
then,
that's great. So you
Yeah.
don't actually see any of the code.
Only the
in
sensors
here.
will see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a camera or a,
No, I think it's more like an infrared kind of thing.
yeah. And underneath here is the same.
It's the same. Yeah.
So this recognizes when the road stops and,
Yeah,
and stuff like
or
that.
recognize it here are some characters or some stories on the map, and then I can recognize everything and to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
will take
should we
that.
get that?
No, they will take that.
All right.
So move forward to primary school. Basically, we have a one platform, software platform called Makeblock, which we already hit around 10 million users all
Ooh.
over the world.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it's a combined learning platform for Scratch, which is a drag and drop programming language for especially for kids to learn programming. And also we're building with Python and
Nice.
Arduino C++,
Yeah.
C and C++, and we're also building extensions as open platform with AI, IoT, or Google Translate, or
Really?
face recognition, deep
All of that,
learning. Yeah. And the
Because
thing
they're
is,
This is
open
in the-
APIs,
this is in
the
you
pri-
can use them.
primary.
we actually have so from primary
Holy
all the
cow.
way, and then
Okay.
you use one platform. But we have a developer platform online. Basically, everyone can write their own extension and put it online. So there are a lot of fun extensions already being made. Like there's even one extension only with emotional kind of feedback
Yeah.
for different robots, so they can show different face on the robots with different emotions. So you just drag and drop the emotions as
Oh,
well.
wow, yeah.
So it's quite funny how people react to this.
So all of these things that you can actually program yourself.
Exactly.
So you can
Yeah.
say if there's a crocodile on the road, you have to be sad because you're scared,
Yeah.
and then you can already let children of what age program this?
For Tiny, it starts with 4 years old, and I think he usually can go up to 6, 7, 8 years old. So based on different activities,
Such
And,
an age.
yeah,
They can do it already.
they can actually. So our experience at the exhibition and at the educational fairs is a lot of kids, they actually really love the challenge, and they are really attracted to this. And I see a lot of children actually spend hours there, and they keep asking, can you change the map? I want to do different ways to do the coding with them. And they're really, really small kids. So I will get back to that point
Yeah.
later though, but I think for education, the barrier is not kids, it's actually the adults holding them back.
I was totally gonna ask you about that. So because this is super interesting in terms of expediting the development
Mhm.
of the child and the capabilities of the child to be able to code and be and think in a way that facilitates the capacity to
Yeah.
be able to create things like this and more as they get older.
Yeah.
However, my main question for you is, given that older adults are usually okay with the status quo,
Mhm.
and they don't like
In
change that much.
primary education, you also have like 85% of women
Yeah.
teaching, and I never saw them with any technology.
Really? Oh, we're gonna have to edit that line out.
But yeah, they
Not
are
in this
they're
country.
easily
Oh, boy.
they're
Oh,
easily
boy.
adapting to it.
Well, that's the main challenge actually
Yeah.
for us, because kids, they are very creative, but they need a little bit guidance in the way of learning. But on the other hand, teachers, adults are often preset with their minds. So
Yeah.
what they always do is say, do this, do that, follow this, follow that, or
Okay.
you can't do this, you cannot do that. So that's something that we are not really recommending, but we are trying to inspire the teachers that let it go, but knowing that which direction you're guiding the kids. So that's why actually in one of the later, actually one of the questions I was about to talk is that our focus now is actually educating the teachers.
Just, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a big program this year called the Makeblock STEAM on Board program. And this program is basically we're going to take out a lot of robots, free robots, and work all over the world with educational partners. And they're going to do massive teacher trainings.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
the reason why we call it on board is basically telling teachers it's okay to use tools. It's going to be like rulers or microscope or whatever in your classroom. It's just a tool. So the idea is that how do you embrace the tool and teach the kids about the knowledge? And that's where kids can learn the most if they have a direction, but they do by themselves, and you'll be amazed at how much they can do actually there.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially for adoption.
Yeah.
So speaking of adoption, you head up the European division of Makeblock.
Yeah.
How has your growth been in the European market?
Pretty good, I have to say. So since we started or incubated in US, we've been always a international startup, let's say. That's always something very different when we start up. When we were only 10, 15 people, our customers are also already all over the world.
Okay.
So that's something different for us. So we've been entering the market quite early actually.
Because of the Kickstarter, probably, right?
Yeah.
So you had clients from all over the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it about the M-Bot back in the day?
No, MBOT is actually a few years later the first project. First project was even just a DIY platform for makers.
Okay.
But then accidentally we saw some professors that they use our DIY platform to teach kids because it's so easy to use and they're using Scratch, and that actually led us into the educational markets. Yeah, and then we get MBOTs on Kickstarter.
Because M-Bot is now, I guess, the most popular, right?
It is the bestseller so far. It's also because it's on the market for maybe 4 years or 4.5 years already.
Yeah, and these two?
And Tiny's released at the end of last year, 2019, so it's fairly new, but they received already really good feedback all over the world actually. We've been keeping up for production even for this.
It looks so good.
It is. I think
for every kid, even for us, it's fun to work with this. Huh?
And that's the point also for parents, for teachers. They feel this thing is so easy to access. I mean, for other robots, you still need to get to know the knowledge, but for this one, you can just start right away. So that's why it gets really popular also in family education, also in school education.
Yeah, you don't have to put it together first, and the rest of the robots you always have to put together, and then you start programming, right?
Yeah. Well, one exception is Cody Rocky. So this is for primary education, also for starters to coding. We did this especially also because you don't have to put anything together, but it has a lot of sensors built in, like a color sensor, distance sensor, or light sensor, Wi-Fi. So basically, you can use these robots to do a lot of projects and very much focus on coding. So that's why we also have this robot for coding education, and especially getting teachers or students on board with coding.
Yeah. Now, okay, so I have a couple of questions. Let me see if it makes sense to slide one in there. The first, so you mentioned you guys sort of accidentally fell into the education space.
That's what I understood. So
Well, so with your, let's say your first school or educational facility here, walk us through the story of why that school or educational facility said, hey, this Makeblock looks interesting. I think our kids need this. What was their real push or motivation to actually engage with you? Make it happen?
It's an interesting question because in Europe it's really depending also on the policies that if you are obliged to teach this or it's just something you want to do in school as an extra. Okay. But I think for teachers what they want is truly a tool that's so easy to engage and no hassle in teaching. Not when you're turning on and running around the classroom and all kids going crazy with everything, but nobody listen to you. I think for most of the teachers that they want a little bit this kind of order in classroom as well. And the other things that depends on how easy to use. For example, MBOT, we actually use open source hardware. It's based on Arduino, but the difference is that we simplify almost every aspect. For example,
it's quite hard to start with.
Yeah, and for example, all the sensors has cables on it, so you just plug in. That's very easy. But we also have a color coded. So if it's yellow, it works with the yellow ports. If there's a yellow, then you know it works. For the whole robots, you only need one screwdriver for this, or for all the big robots behind.
So
All the same screws.
that's
Just
fantastic.
one
That makes it
screwdriver
more
you
fun
need
to
it.
build too.
But
Yeah.
you see different
Yeah, switching.
thingies over here.
Yeah.
How can you do that with one screw?
Well, we do have a double head of the screwdriver.
There you go.
That's also because motors are standard parts that you need across, and for the rest we use a flathead M4 screws. So basically, you just easily to put it on. So MBOT only need 20 minutes. You can put it on.
Yeah.
So and then the programming parts. For example, if you program like a professional boards or a hobbyist boards, you have to go C, C++, which is very difficult for primary school, let's say.
Yeah.
Or anyone who doesn't know these languages.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's where we were quite early already combining Scratch, the drag and drop, with professional editor in one software. So teachers actually see they can teach same things, same knowledge, but they have a learning path from super early to advanced programming.
From drag and drop to if this
Yeah.
and that, like Python, towards C# and C++.
Yeah, so well, it's more either Python or C, Arduino C, but it's all about from drag and drop graphic programming into the actual script programming. And we also have a built-in translator basically. So when you drag and drop, you will see the real code generated, and from there, it's a smooth learning.
That's how people learn WordPress,
Such
right?
Yeah.
And that you can see the text and that you can also see the HTML.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
So all we want to do is make it easier, and I think that's one of the most important things for education. And of course, we're also trying to make it more affordable. So, for example, these are all under $100. So, for a lot of countries, especially they're working on the foundation-based models that they need help to get into the schools. And
like here, right, in the Netherlands as well.
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, for example, we did some projects in Africa, in Mali, or in Nigeria. A lot of the projects is actually from UNESCO or.
Right, it's different than the government here as a
Exactly.
subsidy for every school.
Yeah, exactly, and they need external help as well. So basically, some robots cost like $600-700, and with this you can get 6-7 robots, so you can have a more impact into the classroom as well.
Yeah. So speaking of impact, actually, it's a nice segue right into my other thought on this is it's sort of twofold. So obviously there are a lot of programs, there are a lot of different bots and training scenarios that work their way up through the child's age.
Yeah.
So I don't usually ask two questions at one time, but I'm going to. Then we're running short on time. What's the total duration of all? If a child went from your training programs from start to finish, from beginner to advanced, where they're doing Python, coding Python and C++ and things like that at the end. What's the total duration of that? And then what's the likelihood of them being able to, say, skip needing to maybe go to college,
computer
just
science
go out
school.
and get a job? What is the likelihood of them being employable by the end of?
I think it's very interesting because we actually not really measuring in that sense.
Okay.
We're more measuring in what education needs. So, for example, in France, you were asking about the development of the markets in Europe. In France, we entered a lot of middle school because they have a compulsory curriculum in France. And then our partners actually made these textbooks for coding curriculum, but involving the robots. So that's how we do it to tailor it for the education. So teachers, they're basically teaching coding, but they know they can use robots to expand their lessons. So that's then it depends on how much that they teach in school. We also have some other situations like after school activities or, for example, our competition MakeX, these things. Then it's more task based or this kind of professional knowledge based. Then we basically offer more general activity plans that trainers they can walk through, they can decide what to use. For example, for MakeX Starter as a competition for primary school and early secondary school, normally we see schools or teams they need about 3 months to get trained and then they can finish the tasks. But our idea is that there are tools, so it really depends on where you plant these tools in. So it's not really up to us that okay, you're good enough now with Python or with C++, but it's more about what kind of problems you can solve with the tools. Because eventually you're not going to use MBot to make a big machine, I don't know, for any or producing the cars, let's say.
Yeah.
But you're going to do something similar. So the mindset training is more important. So it depends on where you put it. We actually have a very interesting project I have had in University of Cologne.
Okay.
With a professor. What he did is actually using one of our products to teach physics in high school, and they use it's a discontinued product. Actually, it's a drone. It's programmable drone, but it's not accurate. But it's very fun, and they observe it with camera, and then they show kids why this is happening, why it's not flying directly to your target, why it's kicking back, and all those kind of aerodynamic kind of things being taught in the classroom. So I have to say this, we treat it as a tool, as educational tool, and we hope this will bring transformation on all the subjects. It doesn't matter if it's math or physics, chemistry, biology, or there's a smart home prototype sitting there.
Oh, wow, even
That's
even
awesome.
that way. So you actually would like to see the teachers create their own courses, like
we
it used
walk
to be.
through, we walk through with them basically. So we help them to look into what they can implement in their
Also, as a
classroom.
service, is it like a consultancy service that you do that, or how do you
No,
do that?
actually,
Like, what
I
is the
think
business model behind all this?
Most of the time we invest in this content curriculum
So
parts.
like instruction booklets and
Yeah.
all of these things.
A lot of things that they're on the shelves. There are a lot of textbooks
Wow.
being written with us and
Maybe
also by our
maybe
partners.
grab one that
Yeah.
from secondary schools or some
Yeah.
primary schools. Like it's quite hard for a teacher to start with programming, is that if it's not mandatory in the curriculum, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, this
And
is
then when you see robots, you probably think of that the subject should be about programming. So I wonder how you can give teachers the idea that they can do more than just do programming with a robot.